Chicken tacos should only be trusted to chicken professionals.
That's where we come in. Introducing Zaxby's new chicken finger tacos. One comes with pico de gallo and creamy chipotle ranch. And the other comes with bacon, lettuce, tomato, and avocado ranch. Chicken experts since 1990. Chicken taco experts since now. Order yours today in the Zax Rewards app. Woo, saucy! Zaxby's.
Oh, you popped it early. Yep. Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of the AfterBuzz podcast. My name is Nico Edgerman, your host of the AfterBuzz, and of course with me is Buzz Adams.
Hello.
And we're joined today by a very special guest, comedian, actress, and originally from El Paso, now in LA, Jenny Robbins.
Whoop, whoop, that's me.
Yep, and her calling card is her farts.
Fart. Those are hand
those
fart.
are her butt cheeks, literally farting up a storm in here. Jenny, put your butt away, please. This is a place of business.
It's a skill, it's a talent, it's a gift.
To do it on command like that, what'd you eat? Cauliflower?
Beans.
All right, so on today's episode of the AfterBuzz, we are going to talk about forbidden science.
Ooh.
That's right.
I'm a little wary of that. What is forbidden science?
Science that is inherently unethical or that resulted in terrible things.
Oh, sure.
Oh, okay.
That now...
Like cloning.
Like eugenics.
Eugenics. Yeah, that's one of them.
That was a scientific idea at some point.
And you wouldn't see that happening today anymore because it's kind of forbidden science,
I think
right?
that there's so much stuff that is going on, like that we don't know about.
Oh, I
like
forgot Jenny's a conspiracy
Oh,
theorist.
I love all of this. Look, all I'm like when they were cloning sheep, you think they stopped there? Remember they were going to go? That was a long time ago. Do you think they really stopped? They were like, oh, okay.
You believe there are cloned people now?
I believe. I just think if we're curious
It's
and
possible.
they're there,
It's probably within the realm of possibility.
Of course, they're going to do.
I'm trying to think though. Is cloning inherently immoral if it
No,
doesn't
but it's
necessarily have a harm that you can quantify?
It's just questionable. Did you see that they are already making organic robots? Like they've like that's what's the difference between that and creating another species realistically?
What do you mean organic robots?
So they've created living robots out of tissue. So you can are you looking it up? Nico? Yeah, it's a tissue, and they can reproduce. They can heal themselves. The idea is that they can later on inject this into your body.
Are they even going to be human shaped? I mean, they could be robots that don't look like humans, right?
Yeah, it's in a cell form at this point.
Yeah, they are called xenobots, or simply programmable organisms.
That sounds like a cartoon show.
Xenobots.
Xenobots
Roll
coming
out
to save the day.
One scientist brought to life xenobots.
Well, these are like Joni said, cells or organisms that can assemble themselves in petri dishes and they're programmable, so you can tell them how to assemble themselves.
I'm very frightened by that.
I mean, all this stuff. I feel like it's all like we don't fully have a grasp.
Yeah,
of,
we are gods. We are gods on Earth.
Well, we're not. The scientists doing
yeah,
the work
we're not.
We as a species, we're doing some stuff.
All right, today's episode is specifically about the forbidden science of language deprivation.
What is that?
Like they'll take young children and teach them some alternative to language. There have been experiments in the past.
Yes.
I think one scientist did it with his own child. And it's like, well, we're not going to teach him language and see how that affects his or her development.
Can I tell you something? When I was a child, when I was going through the transition of not knowing language to knowing language,
boy to girl.
When I was going through my, I remember telling myself to remember that moment, like the difference between like learning language and not having language. And I remember for me, I think the biggest difference is your understanding or the way that you look at the world changes. So, for example, like you look at a table, and right now, if you see a table, your mind automatically says, okay, table, that's a table. You label it, and then you don't glance at it again. Whereas before you have a label for it, you look at it, you see the texture of it, you look at all the uses for it, you notice the little small things in the grain. What else can I do with this object before you have that?
Wow.
I want
label.
to. Are you
right.
saying that you have memories from before you acquired speech?
Yep.
What would that have been? Under 2?
Probably. I don't know what it was, but something told me, remember this. And that stuck with me. So, but that was
Interesting.
the big shift, you having a label versus looking at whatever creative uses are available.
So what are these language deprivation experiments
All
that
right,
have taken
sure.
place?
Let's go throughout history. The Egyptian pharaoh Psamtik I reportedly conducted an experiment in 600 BC where he ordered 2 infants to be raised in complete isolation and only exposed to shepherds who were instructed to say just one word, bekos, which meant bread in their language. The experiment was to determine which language was the oldest, so which one would the infant seem to pick up the first.
But they're only getting one word, and it sounds like it's in probably Egyptian, right?
At the time, that's Phrygian, I believe.
Pardon?
Phrygian, I think was the language that they specifically.
I hope those kids didn't have a gluten allergy.
But more recently, you might have heard this famous story about the Holy Roman Emperor Frederick II. And in the 1200s, he was curious about language, the human language, and wondered if humans would naturally just speak it if they weren't exposed. Like, would a kid just start to be able to start
develop
speaking
linguistic skills
if they never had
were
any?
deprived of it? Yeah, I'm going to say, without doing the experiment, yeah, they're not going to acquire any language. Right?
I think they'll make noise.
Well, they got 2 twins and had them raised in complete isolation with no words whatsoever. And
well, at least they're doing a control group in this.
Right.
one, so.
Well, they did the same thing to both, though, so I'm not sure. That's not even really.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Oh, no. That's not a control group at all.
Yeah.
They couldn't develop speech, and they died by the time they were like 2 or 3.
Because they couldn't tell anybody they were hungry.
You're right.
No, what was
they
the
probably
reason they
didn't have-
died?
That apparently language is necessary to be human, to like grow up and to thrive and to
Just
be
like
able
we
to
need
communicate
with
yourself.
each other. Yeah, we need each other.
How about Helen Keller?
She was still communicating. She was still,
She didn't learn how to until she was
Here's the
a
other
teenager.
but she
thing. She was all walking.
yeah.
They had,
Also, she wasn't born. She lost that to, some old-timey disease like scarlet fever or something.
Oh,
That's
well,
what.
So there you go. There she could do something.
it's interesting because they have quotes from some of the people who did this. From this Frederick I one, for example, it is noted that the children, quote, could not live without the clapping of hands and gestures and gladness of countenance.
How they died when they were 3?
2 or 3, yeah. But do you get what that means? That like the children couldn't even live if you didn't like make faces for them, and if you didn't like try and get their attention. Like infants need stimulation.
I bet they didn't die from
Yeah.
not having language, though.
I was gonna say because they had that other experiment where they didn't hug the kids or touch the kids and the kids all died. Like we need physical interaction.
Now there is some other ones that some other examples where the kids didn't die but still didn't have great outcomes. Like King James IV in Scotland in the 1400s did the same thing to 2 infants, sent them to an island to be raised by a mute nurse. And similarly, the children never developed language and died earlier than they normally would have.
How sad if you're a mute nurse, like you just like kill children. They're like, here you go with my life's journey is to be a nurse. And
Boy, these old-timey rulers were dicks.
Super
Kinda,
dicks. They're
yeah.
like, I wonder what would happen if I just fucked with these 2
yeah.
all
children.
these like spare children.
Yeah.
Just like,
What do you got? Like,
I'll go make another one.
We got a room full of them.
Yeah.
Do you know what feral children are? The phenomenon of feral children?
That's-
Is that in your thing?
That isn't my thing.
People raised by wolves, for instance.
Oh yeah.
Other reported cases come later on. Like in the 1700s, Scottish surgeon James Burnet Lord Monboddo is claimed to have found a boy who had been raised by animals in the German forests. The boy could not speak, but he could grunt, suggesting that human speech isn't innate, but learned.
Of course it's learned.
Yeah. 'Cause
Why do you think everybody in China speaks Chinese? Because that's what they learn.
Well, it sounds obvious to us now, but at the time, they didn't really understand, language and exactly where it comes from necessarily.
It just doesn't seem like it would require multiple life-altering experiments on children.
Around the same time, a boy named Victor, known as the Wild Boy of Avrion,
Oh, yeah.
was found wandering the woods of France. He didn't have any language skills, and despite several attempts to just teach him, he could never fully develop language, even after that.
Wow.
And this was like in the 1700s. Are we there by now?
Yes.
Okay.
So you had heard of that one?
Yeah, I had heard of that kid. Caspar Hauser.
Yeah. Caspar Hauser.
Remember the Caspar Hauser story?
Is that the Wolf Boy?
No. He showed up on a doorstep, and there were a lot of mysterious things about him. He didn't have human speech, although he learned it. And he could say a couple of words. Nobody could ever figure out who he was. But he, at about the age of 20, I believe, was found stabbed to death. And it had
goodness.
snowed. This is the way I remember the story. And there were no footprints around him. So,
Oh, like he
intriguing.
stabbed himself, perhaps? Or
And if you're going to look that up, I
Or-
believe he spelled Casper with a K.
He did, and Caspar with an A.
Caspar.
Can you delve deeper into the case of Caspar Hauser?
I saw an interview recently with this woman who was mostly raised by monkeys. She was
Certainly. The case of Caspar Hauser is quite
I wanna hear
intriguing.
about these monkeys,
Here are
though.
some more details. Caspar Hauser was a German youth who appeared in Nuremberg in 1828, seemingly confused and incoherent. He carried a letter claiming he'd been kept in close confinement since infancy by a labourer who was instructed to teach him basic skills. Another letter, allegedly from his mother, gave his date of birth and claimed his father was a deceased cavalry officer. Caspar Hauser was initially detained as a vagrant, but later taken in by a schoolmaster, Georg Dahmer, who tutored him.
Hey, Siri, jump
There
ahead to
were-
the end.
Yeah, seriously.
yeah.
He was
there's
fatally
all-
stabbed in 1833, adding to the mystery. Various theories exist about his identity.
That he was maybe an heir.
The rightful heir to a throne.
Yeah, of course.
That's crazy. What's the
It's a good read. If you just read the Wikipedia article on him, I think it's pretty
That
interesting.
is pretty wild.
who's the Wolf Boy?
There have been a number of wolf boys. Mowgli.
Most famously.
Yeah, most famously,
Most famously, Mowgli.
him and his friends Baloo and Bagheera.
But he was. Remember though, he was part of a wolf family until they decided they had to send him off.
Right, that's true. And I guess the Roman mythos about the
Romulus
and Remus.
suckled by a she-wolf.
Oh. Oh my God! I started watching Back to Monkeys.
Oh yeah. There was a lady who was raised by monkeys.
A lady.
Did she get Tarzan skills?
She. It seemed like she kind of did. I thought it was.
Did she become queen of the jungle?
She was They were trying to traffic her as a child. They stole her from her home when she was a kid.
Wait. The monkeys stole her?
Traffickers. So traffickers stole her as a child. They were fleeing, and then they started getting chased. So they dropped her. Like they were they dropped
The
her.
dead weight. Get rid of the dead weight.
Left her behind. Left her behind and kept running out of the woods.
Did this happen in this century?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It was a more or less recent interview, and she was it was a modern interview, and so she was described. She spent like 20 years in the jungle with. She was lost. She didn't know how to get back. She was like 4. She didn't know how to get back to her home.
And monkeys kind of took her in and provided food for her.
She
and
never
stuff?
found her. She never found her family. Well, she said at first they weren't. That they all they noticed her, but they left her alone. They would stay to themselves, and so she started kind of wandering around, and it took a while before.
And
they
she
took
was
her in.
abducted when she was 4.
Like 4. Yeah.
So she already had language.
So she already had
Sure.
language. She'd already done some things. But one of the things I thought was interesting is when she was speaking, her smile was a very exaggerated smile in between, very monkey-like. So I think she developed
Like that?
Yes,
Because they really show the
That's
teeth.
insane.
They show the teeth. Like she would have like a big smile when she would be talking, and then she would ha ha ha, and she'd start laughing, and it was almost like a monkey style. Yeah, a monkey style laugh.
She loves bananas for some reason.
Loves.
An ideal evening is sitting at home picking parasites off her mate.
Grooming each other.
She did. I think the highlight of the story is that she had was one of the monkeys kind of saved her. She was looking for food, and there was one fruit that none of the monkeys ate. She didn't understand why. She went over, ate it, and got terribly ill in the middle of the night.
Are you smarter than a monkey?
She was screaming, and this one of the monkeys like saw her and was like, ugh, like kind of like annoyed. Walked over to her, grabbed her, and like threw her into some lake, caused her to throw up, and
Threw
then,
her into a lake?
I think he threw her into something, and then where she ended up throwing up, like she regurgitated what she ate.
Is this
They helped her, like he saved her.
and this was just an interview, or is it a
It was an
documentary?
interview.
Do you have a
Yeah, it
name,
was an interview.
by any chance?
I'm gonna look. I'm gonna see if we can find her.
Do you remember what kind of monkeys?
No, Buzz is very
I
specific
know.
about
Now we
this.
gotta.
Well,
now we
there's
gotta
a big,
find this.
there's a lot of difference between a baboon and a capuchin monkey.
Are baboons great apes?
No,
Apes don't have tails, right?
apes don't have tails.
Um,
Here are the species of apes that we are aware of. All right?
Jenny, Buzz is an amateur evolutionary biologist. Like, this is his hobby of researching.
All right, you ready? Gorillas,
Yep.
chimpanzees, which are the most closely related to us. Bonobos, also known as pygmy chimpanzees, that were not recognized as a separate
Ooh.
species until about 30 years ago.
New study just came out
And
showing
orangutans and humans. So humans are one of the 5 great apes.
a new study just came out that showed bonobos are the only great ape species. Oh, that's interesting.
That's monkey lady?
That's monkey lady.
Yeah.
lady.
Bonobos are the only great ape species that don't kill members of their own species,
You know-
including humans.
They love it out.
Interesting that they include us.
Well, because we're technically, I guess, great apes.
Yeah, but they settle disputes by
Fucking.
having sex.
Yeah.
That's right.
Bonobos will do
Oh.
everything. They also have, I think, homosexual relationships.
So
Wait,
they're-
so are they like raping people as like dominant, or is
No,
it
no,
like
so-
no. So
They're
this
all
is
about love
about
and-
their social.
Oh, so it's like rather than like make love not war kind of thing.
These
Right.
are those woke apes you've been hearing about.
Like chimpanzees are more like what you're saying, which they will
They
rape
can
and
be
use dominance.
They can
and-
be brutal, and they'll eat baby monkeys. They'll eat baby chimpanzees sometimes.
And
Chimpanzees are awful.
There's a new show on HBO.
Chimp Crazy.
Yes,
Yeah.
are you watching it?
Yeah.
I watched the first
Oh.
episode.
It's like the
Did you
Tiger
watch
King
that?
of now.
It
Yeah,
is.
It's by the same guy.
The same guy, yeah, same Tiger King guy.
Okay,
It's
that,
good.
You
That
know,
one-
all I'm thinking is that chimp at any moment it chose to could just rip your face right off
At
your
any
head.
time, just
Yeah.
ready to go. I mean, but if you think about it, any person can stab you if they want. Like, it's,
I'll rip your face off. I'll rip your face
Yeah,
off
Remember
right
the
now.
lady that was killed by Travis the chimp about 20 years ago?
They ate her
Yeah,
face.
I think
Well,
they,
she
they
wasn't
talk
killed.
about
She
it in the
lived.
second episode.
She lived.
It's crazy.
And he ripped her face off, bit off most of her fingers, and they think the reason Travis behaved so erratically was he had been put on some kind of new medication.
LSD. They'll do that to monkeys.
I don't think they were giving him LSD.
All right, just to wrap up on the language experiment, they actually continued to happen unintentionally in the 20th century. And one of the most recent examples is of Jeannie, the wild girl from
The
California.
Oh, no. Jeannie, her dad was a real piece of shit.
Huge. Do you want to hear about
Just
this one, Jenny?
kept her basically isolated from any human activity at all.
This was only as recent as 1970. Okay, so Jeannie was kept by her dad in a locked room, almost always strapped to a child's toilet or bound in her crib with her arms and legs immobilized. He forbade anyone to interact with her and provided her almost no stimulation of any kind. And she was left severely malnourished.
Awful.
Super awful. But it was such a famous case that psychologists and linguists have been writing about this and her, because she never was able to learn speaking ever after that.
So this is what is sometimes referred to as a natural experiment. They didn't set up the control. They didn't set up the experiment. It's something that just happened tragically, and they study it afterwards.
Her current whereabouts are unknown.
Wait, Jeannie's still alive?
She is still alive as of 2016. But the thing I was reading about says that humans are remarkably resilient and resourceful when it comes to finding ways to communicate. And just
now, see, I think that could be innate. The desire and the ability to communicate is probably something
innate.
Language is acquired.
We're social. We're social creatures.
Absolutely. And as an example of it, there was two deaf children who invented their own sign language.
They made up their own.
They made up their own sign language to communicate with each other.
Ooh, I saw a thing about that when you're in a relationship for long enough that you start to develop. Technically, you develop a language with your partner.
I believe that. Yeah, there's a shorthand. I think anytime you spend enough time with a person, you kind of just have a
So they said, so every time you break up with somebody, a language dies.
All right, I think
like if you're in a relationship with Jenny, you learn the phrase "one cheek sneak."
Right?
Yeah.
Or
there you go.
Or you smell it. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode.
If you smelt it, you probably built it.
That's what we say.
That's going to do it for today's episode of the AfterBuzz podcast.
Thanks, Jenny.
Check us out every Tuesdays and Thursdays. Thank you, Jenny, so much. Don't forget to keep listening to the BuzzTimes Morning Show Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time on 95.5 KLAQ. Talk to you all next time.
Ready to level up your career? Text DISH to 44043 now to dive into a world of exciting technician opportunities at DISH. From cutting-edge technology to a supportive work environment, DISH offers the perfect platform for your success. Connect with us today to discover how you can be part of a dynamic team driving innovation. Connect today and join the DISH family, where innovation meets opportunity. Text DISH to 44043 to kickstart your journey towards a rewarding career.